Still enjoying the overcast days? We're going on 2.5 months now, June, July, and now half of August. Every day the sky is gray and or has cloud coverage. Every day, every now and then a 5-minute blue sky will poke through, but it is short-lived and rare. It's the first thing I look for after getting up, a blue, cloudless sky. I miss those days. Is this happening all over Texas? Or are we just the lucky ones experiencing the locked in humidity with ugly LA type lackluster sky? I have sent another request for an explanation to the Aggies Department of Atmospheric Sciences. Maybe they will answer me this time. Redistricting is still the current, most exponential end of democracy, according to the American communists. The desperation has reached a level of comedy that would rival any old style comedy show. You remember those before wokeism. They even dusted off Robert Francis Beta O'Rourke to get before crowds, while also picking their pockets for donations. You see, when Kamala ran for president, she blew through $1.5 billion in 15 weeks, $100 million a week of the DNC's money, like any lifelong politician with other people's money, and now the DNC is picking up couch cushions, searching for loose change like a college student with the munchies. Their big money donors finally wised up and put their checkbooks back in the drawer to write checks no more. But back to Beta. Beta is out there in more ways than one, using his mastery of the English language to the best of his abilities to speak out against a judge's temporary restraining order. We are in a basketball game right now, if you will excuse the metaphor, where the refs have left the arena and the other side is just clobbering the DRT out of us, just punching us in the face, kicking us in the DRTs. And we're kind of throwing our hands up and we're asking the crowd, the people of America, hey, do you see what's going on here? This is unfair. This isn't the rules that we agreed to play by. Well, who cares about the arse rules right now? Punch back, kick back, dunk over their heads, and win some woke hiding power. Words that will live throughout history: redistricting rally, Fort Worth, August 9th, 2025, Beta O'Rourke, perpetual candidate for anything and defier of court orders. How on earth did we miss the opportunity to have this brilliant orator as one of our Texas U.S. senators or our Texas governor or as president of the United States? He's one of Texas's greats, right up there with Lyndon Baines Johnson, who infamously stuffed the ballot box in Jim Wells County, Texas, back in 1948. Rules for thee, but not for me. The Texas Democratic Party primary for the U.S. Senate, held in July 1948, was hotly contested and produced an inconclusive result. On the day of the runoff election, which was held the following month, Johnson appeared to have lost the Democratic nomination to Stevenson. 6 days after polls had closed, 202 additional votes were added to the totals for precinct, 13 of Jim Wells County, 200 for Johnson, and 2 for Stevenson. Sound oddly familiar to the 2020 election and the mysteriously appearing ballots, all for Biden. This resulted in a narrow lead for Johnson. The subsequent recount, handled by the Democratic State Central Committee, took a week. Johnson was announced the winner by 87 votes out of 988,295, an extremely narrow margin of victory. Suspicions arose that the 202 late ballots were fraudulent. The names added to the end of the tally sheet were in alphabetical order and written with the same pen and handwriting. Some of the individuals whose names were listed insisted they had not voted that day, and the last person whose name was recorded before the questionable entries stated that when he voted shortly before the polls closed, there had been no one in line behind him. Stevenson took the dispute to court, and the case eventually reached the U.S. Supreme Court. Johnson prevailed because jurisdiction over naming a nominee rested with the state party, not the federal government. A private, non-official investigation found that Johnson had conspired with George Parr, a Democratic Party leader in Texas, to falsify vote totals. In the general election, Johnson defeated the Republican nominee, Jack Porter, by a margin of 33.28% and 353,320 votes. Aftermath. Shortly before his apparent suicide by hanging in 1952, former Jim Wells County Deputy Sheriff Sam Smithwick claimed to have information about the stolen election. Smithwick, who was at the time serving a prison sentence for the murder of Bill Mason, sent a letter to Stevenson encouraging him to visit Smithwick in Huntsville Penitentiary. However, he was found dead by hanging in his cell soon after. Smithwick's family believed that he had been murdered to prevent him from telling what he knew about the election. Johnson biographer Robert Caro argued in his 1990 book that Johnson had stolen the election in Jim Wells County. In 2023, Associated Press reporter James Mangan donated taped interviews to the LBJ Presidential Library and Museum, which confirmed the story he recorded in 1977. Mangan corroborated the story with Luis Salas, who worked as an election judge in South Texas. Salas told Mangan that the powerful South Texas political boss, George B. Parr, ordered that some 200 votes be added to the totals for Box 13. Salas said he then watched as the names of individuals who had not voted were added to the tally sheet. If you want an informative read about the infamous LBJ, I highly suggest Robert Caro's books, Path to Power, Means of Ascent, Master of the Senate, and Passage of Power. Truth is always stranger than fiction, and much more interesting. I still think, with the release of the JFK files, that LBJ Freeway in Dallas screams for a name change. Speaking of Big D, I'm off for my yearly trip there tomorrow, Thursday. I can't tell you how thrilled I am.